I always describe I always describe someone's roles in terms of rubber, in terms of balls, in the sense that they are glass balls that you can't afford to drop, and they are rubber balls that you can afford to drop. The glass doors, those are the key priorities that you can't afford to drop at any given point. And why is it that you can't afford to drop at any given point? It's because when if you drop them, they'll have big implications on your performance review and your performance outcome. So understand what are these key priorities in my role so that in case of anything at any given point, these ones cannot be dropped because they'll have a very big impact on my role. And what are these balls that are rubber balls that in case there is pressure or anything, these are the only drop balls that I can be able to drop because if I drop them at one point in future, I can be able to pick them. And why is this important? I don't know whether you guys have been in this performance review or have experienced it, where an employee has worked so hard, but when they go to the performance review, they are told that their performance was poor. Yet you know that is a diligent employee and they worked hard. But many of the cases, when from my experience, okay, there may other that are special, maybe it's not objective, but in many cases where it's objective and an employee is given that feedback, is because this particular employee, yes, they were working hard, but they were working hard on the wrong priorities, not on the correct priorities that the organization expected of them. The things they were working on, they were in the JD for sure, but those things were not the priorities for that particular role. So it's always important for you as part of your preparation of your performance review to know what are the key priorities of my role and focus and put a lot of weight and energy on those ones. As the others, you can focus on them for sure, but these ones at all cost you can't afford to drop them. Sorry, I've gone to the next slide. So, and then once you understand that and you focus that this now you're preparing for your performance review, even before the actual performance review happens. And then the other thing that now you understand what are the key priorities, that these ones I can't afford to have them drop them. And these ones, they are part of my JD, but they are not key priorities. I'll tell you, like, for example, where I work, I'm in charge of HR end to end. But there are things that I know, like when it comes to performance management, at all costs, that is a glass ball for me. I can't afford to drop it at any cost because the implications on my performance review at the end of the year, it will be dire. Some aspect of the admin, maybe they can it depends sometimes when there's a lot of pressure or something, they can drop and then I can pick them later. But if at all I have to make a decision, I try as much as possible not to drop any ball. But for the ones like performance management, which for me is a glass ball, I can't afford to to drop that. The second step in preparation is ensuring that you document what is it that are your achievements. The moment you achieve them, have somewhere because you're preparing for this performance review. Sometimes you find employees have made achievements and they can't remember of them, or when it comes to that point of them trying to prepare for the performance review because of the pressure, you're not able to remember or articulate well. Have a worksheet in your laptop for your performance review preparation, where anytime you make an achievement, document it down and document how it affected the company so that even that day when it will come to your performance review, you just go back and refer as an employee. And also from an employer's perspective, it is to ensure that if you're the supervisor or the HR, ensure that you articulate the role clearly to the employee. And then, in addition to you are being able to articulate the role clearly to the employee, also help them to know these are the key priorities for this role. And these ones, you can't afford to lose them. And if this employee is able to make an achievement, recognize that. So that also that is a way of giving feedback to the employee that they are doing this is the way this when they do this, they are doing a good job. That is why you're recognizing them. The other part is aligning the goals with your personal growth plan, like your personal growth career plan. So have your own personal growth career plan and align that to what the organization is offering you in terms of, okay, whatever they are offering you, is this aligned to whatever I'm looking for my own personal growth, or is it offering something better? For you as a supervisor or as the HR leader in the organization, part of the conversation during the actual performance review is for you to be able to ask the employee what is it that they see as their career growth plan in future. Do they see it in the organization? What kind of support do they want you to support them to be able to ensure that they grow within the organization? So that in that way you can be able to have joint career plans for both the employee and the employer, and that will help in terms of reducing the employee turnover. So that because many employees leave because they say that there is no growth within the organization. But maybe some of the growth could have been created, just that there was not that point of communication between the employee and the employer to align this. And then also the employee reflect on how this work that I'm doing right now, how is it contributing to the success of the organization? And also for the employer, either the supervisor, in this case, the leader, also try to align and make the employee understand that your role, this is how it contributes to the organization so that they can understand the value that they bring to the organization. So that is the first part, which is the preparation of the performance review, which happens way, way, way before, even before the actual day of the review. Then another thing that affects performance review that I would like to address before even we go to the actual performance review is the organization culture. In one way or another, the organization culture of a company shapes how performance review is done in terms of what is it that what is it they consider that is they will evaluate, and what is it they consider that they will reward. Um, so, what is it that as an employee you may need to know and understand when it comes to organization culture so that it can work for your good when it comes to actual performance review? The first thing that I would want to say is for you to understand who are the persons who influence your review. Of course, the first person who will influence your review will be your immediate supervisor, the one whom you report to. That is a very key relationship that you have to manage strategically. Managing it does not mean that you like your boss, but you have to ensure that whether you like him or not, you're always in good terms with them because they will affect your performance because they have a say. So, how do you manage relationships in a way that ensures that it works for your benefit? The first thing, if it's your boss or those leaders or managers you're reporting to who have an influence and have a great say in your work, first understand what is their priorities at work. And whatever it is that is their priorities, make them your priorities. That if they need something done, they can count on you, they can rely on you, they can depend on you. And also, in that sense, you will not give them any reason for them to doubt you, so that they know that they can rely on you at any given point. Then also, in this, sometimes you find that You might not like your boss. There are things about them that you don't like, and that's human. You don't have to like them, but you don't have to let them know that you don't like them. It's important to just apply emotional intelligence to remain professional. You don't have to like them, but you can respect them and have a cordial relationship in terms of how you work with them. Why? Because you know that they'll have a say in terms of your outcome of your performance. So this is a key relationship that you have to manage, and you have to manage it strategically, knowing that it will have an impact on your performance review, which might greatly affect it both on the positive side and on the negative side. And as I said, I think sometimes because we don't like maybe the people who have like our immediate bosses or other leaders in the organization, sometimes that affects how we treat them. And because we are human, it's understandable. But I think that's where us as on the side of the employees, for us to apply emotional intelligence, and you don't have to show everything, just remain respectful. You don't and ensure that we are here to work, focus on that, focus on what is the objective. And when you remain focused on the objective, then it becomes, they may not you will end up having a good relationship with them, even if maybe necessarily within you have a different opinion of them. And that's what will work to your benefit when it comes to the actual performance review. So how do we do the actual performance review, both from the aspect of the leader who is doing the review, and also from the employee? Maybe up to there. I don't know whether there's someone who has any question before I proceed. I think silence means we are on the same page. So um, in case maybe I've missed it out, we can discuss at the end. So we are now on the actual review, the actual conversation of the review. We began preparing for this performance review either when we joined the organization, number one, if not when we joined the organization, when the financial year began. So how do we do it, and how do we do it effectively? First, performance review um, should be done regularly. By regularly, I mean that there is the actual performance review that is done at the end of the financial year. But in terms of check-in and feedback, that should be done regularly. At least, I always recommend at least once a quarter or once every 3 to 4 months. As a leader, as a supervisor, have a moment with at least your team members to check on how they are doing, to check on their progress, to give them feedback, so that in case of anything that needs to be fixed, it can be feedback and be given, and action can be taken early enough in case of anything. In case of because sometimes when you wait at the end of the performance review at the end of the financial year, you find that at that time it becomes hard for you to fix anything in terms of there is no time, and you're giving feedback, but you're giving feedback too late. It's not just about giving feedback in the performance review, but it's giving feedback and effective feedback. A part of the effective feedback is ensuring that there's an opportunity for the employee to be able to rectify what is it that the feedback, the implications of the feedback. So between every 3 to 4 months, it's always important for you as a supervisor or the HR leader, for you as a supervisor, to ensure that you meet with your team members to check on how they are progressing and to give you feedback. However, you find that some supervisors, they wait until the end of the financial year to do a review and to give you feedback, which I don't believe is a good thing. For you to tell an employee at the end of the employee has stayed with you for an entire financial year. And then at the end of the year is when you're giving them feedback which they have never heard about, yet you've been with them in the same office for the last 1 year. Because what's the point of you giving them feedback at that point? If you're giving them something that you should have given them earlier, it's not helpful at that point. The best is to give it to them earlier, so that if there's any action that needs to be taken, they can be able to take and rectify it. Because this feedback should be able to encourage growth. So when the employee is implementing the feedback, then that is encouraging the growth. But when you give it at the end of the financial year, it means that you're not encouraging growth because there is not an opportunity for the employee in that financial year to implement that feedback. So that is one. Then, how do you give feedback? As so, when feedback, so if the supervisor is not giving you that feedback, ensure as an employee you press for it. Because sometimes, as I said, that there are supervisors um, who are not proactive in ensuring that they manage performance regularly by meeting with the employees to give feedback. As an employee, ensure that you press for it. I have seen a question that is asking what is the role of HR in performance review. One of the role of HR in performance review is ensuring that regular feedback is being given and this feedback is being given on time. So as an HR, with your fellow line managers, ask them how the employees are doing. When was the last time they had a moment with them? And what were the outcomes? If you want to make it even better, to document it, tell them maybe at the end of the 4 months or what, to share with you a report on the moments that they have had. Maybe every 4 months, they can share with you a report, just a brief report. It doesn't have to be any structured on the moments they have had with their team members, what came out and what actions they are taking about that, to ensure that he also as as an HR leader, you're keeping your peers, your colleagues, your fellow line manager accountable in that. The other thing is when feedback is being given, it should be given in a respectful way. Focus on the issues, not the person. For many HR, I know you sit in performance review meetings. So it's one of the things to ensure that the conversation moves cordial, in that it doesn't become personal. And if it becomes personal, it's upon you as the HR to ensure that you address that and, you return them back and you ensure that the feedback that is given in a way that is palatable, in the sense that we are focusing on the issues and not the person as the supervisor who is giving the feedback. Sometimes you find that this is affected mainly by personality of the person, in the sense that you find some supervisors, they are a bit blunt. They will say things as they are. So they'll be saying the truth. But how they say it might be very hurtful. Others might not be outrightly, and they will try to circle around the issues. They might not come forthright. But as the employee, that's why it's important for you to listen to what is spoken, especially for those supervisors who are blunt, and also what is implied for those supervisors who don't come out clearly to say, this is what I mean, but um, this is what I am saying, or this is what I mean, but they beat around the bushes, but you can read in between the line, this is what they mean. So as an employee, it's always keen for you to read what is spoken and also what is implied, and not just for the employee, also for the supervisor and the HR sitting at the meeting. Also, it's important for you to look from the feedback that the employee is giving. Also, understand what is it that is what they are speaking and what is it they are implying. Because performance review should be corroborative. It should encourage growth. If an employee leaves that meeting without feeling satisfied, what that means is that you have lost them psychologically. And in many organizations and for many teams, You lose them first psychologically before you lose them physically when they resign and leave the organization. First, they resign from the psychological contract they have with you, and then they start looking for a job, and then they leave physically. So it's important also for you as a supervisor and also for you as a HR manager in that review. It's important for you to press and ask. It's also important for you to pick what is the non-written messages that is not there so that you can take corrective action. If it means having another moment for review or encouraging the employee to speak out so that you can know what is it that it's in their heart that is uh, they are not they are not fully expressing it. Some things that maybe from some things an employee might request for, the organization might be able not to provide. But the most important thing is for the employee to ensure that they are heard. And also, if you're not able to provide what is it that the employee is asking, explain it, and it should be in such a logic way so that the even when the employee is looking at it, tukisema we will not be able to do this, genuinely the way they're explaining it, it's true they are not trying to hide or cover it up. It's genuine that they are not able to do this. And then also sometimes during feedback, you find that you're given during the performance review, you're given a feedback or something that you don't agree with. If you disagree with something, always press for clarity. And the good thing about pressing for clarity is that when you press for clarity, the employee will be able to, if it is from the employer, then they will be able to clarify, or for you, if it's an opinion that maybe you felt that this one was something that you don't agree with, then even from the employer side, they'll be able to understand that this, whatever I perceived it, is not how things were really are. And the other thing I would say during the actual review, and I think this especially affects the women, is don't fear making an ask. And I've seen, especially for women, sometimes we hold back, we are scared, we second guess ourselves in terms of maybe asking for a certain benefit that we feel we want, but we are scared of asking. Ask. The worst thing that can happen is for you to get a no. But when you're asking, the reason why you're not asking for the sake of it. You're asking so that you can get a benefit out. You can get that benefit. So don't just say, I want this and this and this. Tie it to a tangible benefit that a company will get out of them giving you what is it that you're asking. I'm asking this benefit, but if you give me this benefit, the company will benefit in this and this way, so that it can be a win-win for both the employee and the employer. And that way, the employer will be compelled to give you your ask because they are getting something out of it. And then once the performance is done, it's always important, and I spoke about it in the previous slide. For you as the HR leader or the supervisor, understand what is the growth plan, career path for the employee. And if this is a growth path for the employee, how can you be able to provide such opportunity in the organization? And also for you as the employee, because these are two-way performance is there is the employee on that other side. Also, there is the employer on this other side. Also, for you, depending on the outcome that has come out of that performance review, then align that to what is it that you want in your career, in terms of your career growth, so that it can be win-win for both the employer and for both the employee. Then the actual the last part, which I think in many cases is always the gist for many performance review, is the salary negotiation. And I think that is the always the elephant in the room, and that is always the desired outcome that everyone wants when it comes to the expected outcome of a performance review. the first thing I would always encourage and recommend is for you to showcase your achievements. You remember in the first slide when I said part of preparation of your performance review is throughout the year, you being able to document what is it that has been your achievements, the achievements that you've made throughout the year. So this is the moment where you shine with your achievements that you've made. And if you want your achievements to carry weight, don't list just the achievement, but also show how those show those how those achievements contributed to the results of the organization. So I did this and this, and when I did this and this, it gave the organization XYZ results. So it was for the benefit of the organization, so that the employer can be able to see this benefit or not, this achievement was just not just mere achievement, they contributed to the success of the organization. Then there is something I always talk about. Always when it comes to salary negotiation, always have three values. There is the best and I'll explain them. There is the best, sorry guys, there is the best negotiated price, there is the worst negotiated price, and there is the walkaway price before negotiation. Before you go to the negotiation room, have these with you. Let me just give an example to explain this. You are earning 100,000. You desire your salary increment to 130,000. So your desired salary is 130,000. So that is your walkaway price, which is 130,000. However, you don't mind if they give you 150,000. Hiyo watakuwa wamejaribu kabisa. Hiyo as in they have done their best. They have done a really fantastic job. So your 150,000 is your best negotiated price. So, and then, but in the worst case scenario, what is it that you can't go lower at any given point? And that is your worst negotiated price. Let's say you've said in this salary review, I can't go any lower than 120. So your 120 is your worst negotiated price. In case worst comes to the worst, I'm walking away with 120. But my heart desire is 130. But I won't mind wakifanya tu vizuri sana. The best that I would want would be 150. And this you should prepare before. So, and I think we really do this really well as Kenyans when you are negotiating for staffs. But I don't know what usually happens when you are negotiating for our salaries. But when you are buying something and you want to negotiate, you start, something is 2,000 shillings and then you tell someone, mi niko na 1,000. And you start from there. So when you're going to negotiate for your salary, you start with the best negotiated price. So if you ask how much you expect, or if you tell them how much you expect, start with the 150,000, which is your best negotiated price. Chances are, many times you don't get your best negotiated price. But the reason why you start with the best negotiated price is because you want to land to your walkaway price, which is 130. So if 130 is your desired salary, you can't tell them that, because chances are high they might not give you what you're looking for. They'll give you maybe something slightly less than what you're looking for. So you start with 150, and then maybe in the process of negotiation, you guys will end up at 130. So finally, you get what you want, which is your walkaway price of 130, but you started with the best negotiated price, which was 150. And if the worst comes to the worst, then you will walk away with your worst negotiated price, which is 120. So you should always, when it comes to performance review, never let, and this is from the employee's point of view, do not let the person who is reviewing you know what is your walkaway price and what is your worst negotiated price. Just let them know what is your best negotiated price and start it from there. Then you can see how to maneuver the negotiation. Then one of the things that you should understand when it comes to salary is that your remuneration will always reflect the value that the employer sees for you in the organization. So what they are paying is the value that they are seeing in you. Is that necessarily your value? Maybe, maybe not. If it's not, you feel that is not your value and you're bringing more, it's an opportunity to have the conversation. And if the conversation does not work, then you can, those are the ways in which now you start thinking, am I seeing my growth here? Is there a way I can be able to see to add more value or to convince them? Or is it that my growth is elsewhere? Also, when you're having, and these I've seen it a mistake we make in performance review, where we turn performance review to be salary negotiations meetings. It is true, salary negotiation is part of performance review, but that's not the only thing that performance review is all about. There is also the fact that it is also an opportunity for you to give feedback. It is an opportunity for growth, an opportunity, as I said earlier, for you to develop joint career plans and together with the employee, in addition to salary negotiation. But that is not the only thing. And then when you're negotiating for your salary, frame your discussion around mutual value creation in the sense that you're giving this is what you're getting in return. Don't just say that, okay, I want 150. That is a 50% increment. Then show me how you're going to increase your value by 50%. Because as I said, your pay reflects the value that the organization are able to see in you. And last part is what I want to leave you with is for you to take charge, to take charge of your growth. Why? Because no one else is more invested in your success than yourself. You're the only one who is invested in your success as an employee. Thank you. I open the forum to questions. Oh, I can see some questions in
The comment section. Yeah.
the comment
There
sections.
is John.
The first one, sorry? Yeah, the first one
It's
on
okay. It's
what is
okay.
the role of the HR in the performance review. I explained some points, but also in addition to that, like when it comes to HR plays a different role at different points. At the point of preparation is to ensure that it's aligned. The employee knows what are their key priorities and what their expectations, and um, also ensuring that in the process within the year that the feedback is being given at the end of, and to track that. And then when it comes to the actual performance review, to ensure that it moves well, so to plan for it in terms of what are these it that we are reviewing, but also when you're previewing um but also when you review when you're reviewing at the end of the year, the because the HR ensures that there is feedback is given throughout the year, it means that there will be nothing new that is coming out during the performance review. For that effect, if, feedback to be effective and to encourage growth. John is asking whether is performance review a warning letter from the employer? Yes and no. It depends with the organization culture. Generally, the main objective of performance review is to encourage growth, collaboration between the employer and the employee. But you find in some organization, depending on the culture, performance review is only done when things are bad. Like when they feel you are not performing well, that is when they will invite for a performance review meeting. Then that should be a warning sign. But for some organizations, the ones that have a good culture, also performance review is also a good opportunity for the employer also to give feedback to the employee that they are doing a fantastic job. An opportunity mainly and basic performance review should be mainly for giving feedback and acting on the feedback. That feedback does not necessarily need to be bad feedback. Even when there is good feedback, it's also important to give good feedback. But I'm very aware that there are some organizations that, it's like when things are okay, we don't say. We only speak when things are not okay, but that's not a good culture. So it can be either. Um, Ideally, how many performance review should it happen in a year? Some companies have mid and annual reviews. Um, Let me distinguish two things: performance review and check-in. I believe also you don't want to, your work is, you also need to have an opportunity for, um, you also need to have an opportunity to work so that work then can be quantified for performance review. So I would say um, once or twice a year, the major performance review, that is okay. Even once, that is okay at the end of the year. Or some organization have mid-year review and end of year review. That's okay. But in between, what I was calling regular reviews is checking, where it that needs to be taken, any support that needs to be taken, and just write a small report or a small summary to share with the HR. And that is one of the things HR comes in it at this part to ensure that this happens. So that why is it that there needs to be regular check-in every quarter? So that to ensure that feedback is given regularly and it's given on time for the right corrective action to be taken. Um, After performance review, can you bring up the issue of salary review? Yes, you can always bring up the issue of salary review after performance review. But also, the thing that I would, when in your organization is salary reviews being done, especially if after annual performance review, that is a good opportunity for you to bring up um to bring up the issue of salary review. And as I've said, how do you bring us up the issue of salary review? It's not just, of course, there is some organization have good culture of doing the salary review to adjust for inflation, but also you want in your salary review to get the maximum increment, not just for inflation. And how do you get that? You get that by stating your achievements and how your achievements have contributed to the benefit of the organization. When you state your achievements and how those achievements have contributed to the to the benefit of the organization, then then that carries more weight in terms of them making the decision of increasing your salary rather than saying, I just want an increment. When you justify the things that you've done, you've achieved, it carries more weight. What if they ask, how much were you getting in your previous job? How should you respond? I think this is a mistake that as a child we do, but many times we do it. And it's a double-edged sword. It can work for you and it can work against you. I would recommend from a candidate point of view, if you feel saying maybe you want a big jump and you want a big jump and maybe stating your current salary, you're stating your current benefit might work against you. Like where you feel where you are in your current organization, they have not been paying you well, and therefore you are underpaid, and you you want a good you want like a big jump. Maybe you're earning 100,000 and you want to jump to 200,000. But if you give them 100,000, they will maybe give you 130, 140, and that will not work into achievement. I always encourage candidates, just tell them politely that you're not comfortable revealing your previous benefit because they may work for you or against you. But you're open to discussion. They share the package on the table, and then you can pick it from there. Because they have a salary scale, they have a bracket, and then you can negotiate from there. If you feel that maybe you're looking for a job of maybe something like 30%, which some organizations do 20 to 30%, then you can be able to state your current benefits. And when you're asking for the previous benefits, if they press, then tell them that maybe you're not comfortable to sharing your benefits, but you can give them a range of your expectation. And then maybe you can tell them, I'm expecting, in this case, you want to jump to 200,000. You can tell them that maybe you're expecting something like 200 to 250 and open to negotiation. Where you feel that revealing your current benefit will undercut you. I hope I've I have answered that well. They give their offer and they say that their offer is negotiable. Yeah. Most of the times, employers, the first offer they give, it's not the final offer. I can say that both as one who has given the offer and two as also one who has received an offer. So it's also important if you feel that you're not completely satisfied by this offer, press for a review, a better review, because them always remember, and this may be something that I want to add when it comes to salary negotiation. The point at which you have the highest negotiating power when it comes to salary negotiation is when you're changing jobs and you're getting another job. When it's annual performance review, yes, of course, you can get an increment, but that increment is not as significant as many times when you change the job. Maybe if the scope of your job increases, that is when you find sometimes the increment is quite significant into double-digit numbers. So if they say the offer is negotiable, please negotiate and negotiate upwards, having that in mind. Christabel, I much appreciate your advice. Thank you. Don't wait till the end of the year to give your dear the area of improvement that they never had. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's true. I mean, what's the point of you giving the feedback? You're giving the feedback so that this person can improve. So why is it that you're giving them the last minute when they have already finished the work? It beats the point of giving feedback. Yeah. Whom say the approach? Whom should I approach on the salary review? In the organization, I've already received a letter congratulating me for good performance. When it comes to salary review, I always say, because this is a touchy issue, I'm hoping this is the last question. I've not missed any other question in the chat. Always approach it strategically. Don't be the kind of person every now and then you are asking for a salary increment after every couple of months. Because also the employer will pick atakulan psychologically, and that will be demotivating for them. I always say pick a moment in the year, whether it is the end of the financial year, whereby that is when their annual reviews are being done, and that is for moment for you to negotiate for the salary review. And if you don't get it at that point, and it's when your organization does annual review for salaries, then ask, when is it that you can have this conversation of salary review again? For the person who got a letter saying that was good performance, I would ask two questions. The first question is, was it in relation to the annual review? If it was in relation to the annual review, then I think you can press for you to be given that to be reflected in your salary for the good performance. If maybe it's not yet right, final review, the end of the financial year, then keep it where I said at the beginning as part of preparation is for you to document your achievement. This is the achievement that you are carrying during the annual year, the salary review, and you'll take it as one of the things to tell you guys, this is one of the good performance that I've done that I feel should be recognized and awarded. Most of the organizations, they prefer having the conversation on salaries once a year when they're doing annual performance review. Yeah, I don't know whether I missed out any other question. Please, if I have, you can let me know.
No, you haven't. We're all good. Yeah, I don't see any question. Any other question? Yeah. If there's no other question, maybe anyone, maybe we can take the last question. There's none. You can raise up, open your mic, or just drop the question in the comment section. Okay. There is none. Thank you so much, Kellen, for the session. We have learned a lot on performance and how not only how employers need to conduct themselves during performance reviews, but also how us as employees, how we can also conduct ourselves during performance review. There is a question from Martha. Could you give us a guide on how to set KPIs?
Okay. A guide on how to set KPIs. I think I spoke about it in detail last session, but just to give it a summary, how in big lines, how do you set a KPI? KPIs, you start with what are the organization objectives. That is where you start. And this is where the HR comes in. The organization objective, the HR helps to cascade that to departmental objectives. So you sit down with the departmental leaders and then you tell them, this is where the organization is going. How is your department going to contribute to this? And then you set departmental objective for each and every department. HR, I think this is where it's very critical for them to be able to spearhead this. And then once you have the departmental objectives, you support the line manager in each and every department to be able to cascade these departmental goals to individual employee goals. In each and every role in that department, what is it that they are going to do about these departmental goals? I believe this should be aligned with the JD each and every one of them has, because that is what is contributing to the departmental goals. So it means that everything is building up together. The KPIs for the individual employees are building up to the departmental goals to meet the departmental goals, and the departmental goals are moving to meet the organization goals. And then when the organization succeed, it means that everyone is able to succeed, both the employee and also the employer, and it leads to win-win for both the parties. When you're setting KPIs, always ensure that they are always smart. So that when they are smart, then it means that they are able to be measured, so that because whatever can't get measured, it never gets achieved. If you can't measure it, it's difficult to achieve it, because how will you know that you've achieved it? Timeline with which it is, it can be reviewed, and um all other aspects that goes to settings, smart KPIs. So that is what I can be able to give in big lines. But also to add on to that, something that I've alluded, it just doesn't stop at setting KPIs. And this is a role that HR we have to play in terms of following up regularly to ensure that we are on course with both the employees and with the support of the line managers. We are on course with the KPIs at any given point. I hope I've answered that. Thank you, Mother.
Mm. Look,
And
Martha,
also,
that's
sometimes I think one of the things that I've seen employees sometimes, HR professionals struggle is in terms of making KPI smart. These days, I've seen people using even Chat GTP, where you put the KPIs there and tell the Chat GTP to make them smart. Don't let it do for you the work. It can help you in the documentation part, but also just check them for yourself and say whether, if whatever is it that they have given you, it's something that looks smart and reasonable. So don't believe everything that the outcome of it, but also you can use it in terms of making the KPI smart if you feel that maybe if you feel that maybe making them smart is a challenge.
yeah. Think, I hope Martha, that's okay. Okay. Okay, last one. Kelly, there's a question. Which is the right channel to use for salary review? Should it be with your direct manager or HR?
Um, I think HR. It depends. In some organization, I've seen where direct line manager also plays the role of an HR. But if you have a separate HR and a separate line manager, I would for it to be, for the ones that I've seen to be more effective are the ones that have been addressed to the HR. Maybe if there is anything that the HR needs to pick and clarify with the line manager, I believe if they are good HR, they can be able to do so. So yeah, HR always, because sometimes even some some performance, some of these queries when they are raised with the line managers, sometimes they don't even get to the HR department. And also, HR department has more influence in terms of influencing the decision of a salary review and being able to put up that such a case to the leadership as compared to a line manager. But for some organizations, there is whereby I've seen some line managers who also carry the role of the HR.
Yeah, I hope Njeri that's been answered. Okay, I think yes, yes. Thank you, Njeri. I think we can, yeah. So yes, so thank you so much, Kellen, for today's session. No, it has been insightful and we we have learned a lot. Yeah. So without taking so much time, I think I don't know if Alvin is